Good morning once again to everyone. Before I introduce my panelists, I would like to say a few words about this unique market. Middle East has always been a very interesting and a unique market for everyone across the globe. Before the pandemic or this COVID-19 started off, there were some facts and figures which the UN, WTO, and other companies had circulated, which I will share with you. They may be different now, but just to get an idea before the pandemic, how important this market was. According to UN WTO, the Middle East outbound numbers were pegged to grow to 46 million this year. They were expected to grow to 46 million this year and to 61 million by the year 2030. That was the prediction of UN WTO. And very interestingly, per trip expenditure for a Middle East traveler is the highest among everyone in the world. That's what figures are. Saudi Arabia's outbound tourism market is expected to reach US dollars 43 billion by 2025. While the family holidays currently actually dominates the market, but this so-called, what we call is the rising generation Z population is looking for unique experiences and is changing the trends in the Middle East. That's what basically is happening. The younger millennials make up for about 25% of the MENA region. I'm talking about North Africa here also. That's what basically is. But that's the potential. That's what everybody's looking at the Middle East. We know that's going to be such a big market and we need to be here. And they're the ones who are spending the money, so we need to really get hold of them. But now what happens? After this pandemic, after COVID-19, there are going to be changes. There are a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things are going to become different. There'll be new, what we call the new normal, but I think there'll be unique changes which is going to attract people to come over to different destinations. So today we have a panel of 3 experts who are knowledgeable, and they are experts. And I will introduce to you them. First, let me introduce to them one by one, and then I'll ask them to say a few words. Since they're from different parts of the world, I will start with the furthermost. I will start by introducing Daks. If you can see him, the gentleman over there, Daks Gonzales. He's Philippines. He's from the Philippines Department of Tourism, heads the Middle East market. He has previously served and headed the Department of Tourism offices in Europe, and is also on the boards of various international tourism organizations. Welcome, Daks. Welcome to us today. The next person I will introduce you is I would like to go off onto what I call as Singapore, and we have Beverly Yong from Singapore, and she is the area director international group Singapore Tourism Board. She is an experienced marketer and has worked across multiple disciplines ranging from consumer products to legal and tourism. Beverly held the position of area director for Russia, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia before moving to Dubai to cover the Middle East and the Turkey markets. Welcome, Beverly. Welcome. The next person we have is, of course, from Nepal. That's Nandini Lahe-Thapa. She is the senior director at the Nepal Tourism Board and heads the international marketing and promotion department. She has worked for over 3 decades in the tourism industry, and Nandini is also a member and the founding team person of the Nepal Tourism Boards. In fact, she speaks 6 languages and also has been a part of board member. She told me, I'm just going to share this with you, that she is very passionate about seeing women coming to decision-making roles in the travel and tourism industry. We wish you all success on this, Nandini, and welcome to us today. Okay, friends, since you have introduced all of you, so you have Nepal, you have Singapore, and you have Philippines. So let's start from the furthermost. Let's go all the way to the Philippines. And I'm going to request all the 3 panelists first to say a few words. Let's hear what their views and comments are, and then we will go with the question answers. So the first is Daks, over to you. Could you say your introduction comments? Or you need to unmute your mic, Daks. You need to unmute. I think you're muted. Your mic. We can't hear you. No, we can't hear you at all. Can you log back again? Try that. That will be wonderful. Till he is logging back, of course, let's save some time and let's move on to Singapore. So what I'm going to do is, Beverly, why don't you say your introduction remarks and then we'll go back to Daks again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Great. This is unprecedented times for a lot of us. Largest challenge we've ever gone through, actually, for Singapore. But I think at the same time, I'm quite excited to see the new changes and the new norms for everyone. And I think this is a time when we really sit back, reset, relook at the things that we're doing, make ourselves even more efficient, even more exciting. I think it's very, very interesting times that's coming up for us, for all of us, actually. So that's how I feel about the current COVID situation right now.
Okay, those were your remarks. I agree with you, Beverly. That's something which is to go forward to. And now I'm going to request Nandini. Nandini, your introduction remarks, and then we'll go to the question answers. So if you'd like to say something, we'll look forward to it. No, Nandini, we can't hear you. You need to unmute your...
Okay.
Yes.
Right? Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you so much. And we really do not have to, go back into the big terror that, this COVID has unleashed globally in the whole world. And of course, in Nepal, tourism is really, really one of the most important smokeless industries we have. So, it has hit us really badly like everybody else. And, at the tourism board, we are in a little bit of an uncomfortable, like we're a little in a rock and a hard place because we are the go-between between the government and the private sector. So we have, despite the lockdown, we have been really, really busy trying to come up with, really lobbying with the government to come up with relief packages for the trade, and also working very hard on recovery and, like revival strategies. So that's what we've been busy with, and like the new normal is, of course, in choosing a destination whenever travel opens up, is no longer just going to be the unique attractions of a destination. It's going to be the health, hygiene, sanitation protocols a destination has in place at every level, of your travel. So that is something we have been focusing on. We have just completed the draft because it started off with a small document and now it's become a huge document with so much of input came in. It's a very practical document. And when we were sort of convinced that everybody in the trade is going to read it very, very, very carefully because it affects them, their staff, and their clients. So we use this opportunity to also put in, environmental and sustainable tips that they could use to make to promote more green tourism. So that's what we are focused on. And as we discussed, then I can share more of what I've been doing.
Thank you, Nandini, for your starting remarks. Daks, you're back again. Can you say hello? I hope your mic is working. Yes, we can.
Hello,
we can.
Everybody. Yes.
All right. Your introduction remarks, please, Daks. We'll love to hear from you.
Yes. So, good morning, Sanjeet. Good morning, Nadine. Good morning, Beverly, and to all that are watching this roundtable discussion on Middle East, the new Asian source market. It is a great pleasure to be with all of you today. I also would like to thank you all for this vision to extend positive insights and a chance to continue to a way forward positively through these tough and challenging times that our beloved tourism industry is facing. I am very confident that collectively we will be able to achieve results we all share or desire. And so thank you, and good afternoon to us all.
Thank you, Daks. It's good afternoon for you in Manila at the moment and in Singapore. Okay, now to move ahead, I'm going to ask my questions to all of you, and you could kind of reply. Since Dax, we missed you in the beginning, so I'm going to start with you. The obvious question, I think that's something which everybody is in everybody's mind. What happens now going forward? Is the year 2020 gone? Have we lost that year, or what do you expect? And because this is Middle East is a major source market for everyone, and all three of you at the moment. What are your comments on 2020? Have we lost the year, or is something more to happen? And what are you going to look at in 2021? We'd like you to also share some feedback on what are your plans for marketing strategy for 2021 in light of this new, what do I say, this new COVID, post-COVID and living with COVID. I would say both of them. What is going to be your point of view from Philippine students? I'd like to hear your point of view.
Well, to start, no, we do not believe that the 2020 is going to go on an end. We strongly believe that there is hope to recover, sometime very soon and before the year ends. There are very strong indications from the market that they will be moving forward. This scenario is actually a very ideal for the so-called armchair generals. They really love this. We have to all go back to the drawing board, and the truth is that we simply have to go back and answer the 4 W's and the H. Who, what, where, and why, and how. The key is to go into focus marketing, we believe, and to work through partnerships. My stakeholders believe that this will lead to ultimate efficiency in driving results. So yes, the mood is still very positive for a recovery within 2020.
Okay, and do you want to share throw some light on next year, 2021? Are you looking at something different, or your strategy is going to be the same?
Well, the tools are going to be the same, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, it is more of the putting emphasis on focus marketing, identifying your W's and your H's, and then the tools have not changed through the trade, through social media. What we communicate, of course, will have to change. And this will evolve, and this is something that we have to always be on our toes with. For example, what we are communicating right now in the market is, dream and wake up in the Philippines. That is that is the current message. But we are ready to move forward within the next weeks, a couple of months, or specifically when the time is right. So we have to always be on our toes and look into the state of development.
Okay, well taken, Dax. I'm going to move on now to Beverly. Beverly, the same question, but I like to mention, I just want to understand your marketing plans for 2020 and 2021 specifically. And I like the point which I like to stress on. Do you believe there is going to be life with COVID, or is going to be life without COVID? So that's something which I like to ask you also. Go ahead.
COVID is here to stay.
No, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me? COVID, I think it's here.
Now we can hear you.
I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that we stop everything. I think our tourism industry has always been very resilient, very creative. And this is really the time when this is going to come through and show us how we can pull through this entire thing. And that's why I go back to my earlier point that it's very exciting times. It's here to stay. We are going to be dealing with this. How do we deal with it? I think it's one of the key things that everybody is asking everyone and trying to answer that. current pandemic has caused travelers' needs and preference to shift, change. Very much so, they're looking at hygiene factors, they're looking at sterilization, like cleanliness. So these are things that are really coming up very strongly right now, and it will become a top priority. All these hygiene factors that in the past people take for granted is going to be quantified right now. When they start to pick a destination, when they start to make a purchase decision, I think all this will come true very much. In terms of our corporate strategy, I think right now we really want to work on instilling that confidence while keeping the audience inspired and engaged. So this is something that we're working on very strongly right now. Specific for the Middle East market, they've always been very digitally savvy. Digital is everywhere on everybody's phones and on, so our marketing campaign will continue to have this strong focus on the digital front as we try and build our long-term competitive advantage there. Aside from that, I think the Middle East market do look at reliable sources from your influencers, from your word of mouth, from key opinion leaders. So these again are some of the things that we will continue to work on. We have in the past, and we will continue in this time round. We are also leveraging on technology actually to kind of engage people even more in this new time, more so, right? For us, virtual tours, gamification, partnering some consumer brands actually to push out relevant content. So these are the various things that we're working on. Just continue to keep our visitors engaged. Yeah.
But Beverly, I want to really ask you that this is what you were doing earlier, and you're going to do that in 2020, and the same thing will continue in 2021, or will there be a change?
I think it's largely it remains as is, but it has been amplified further. So gamification is something that we really is going into now, very much so. We are also redefining some of the concepts. So for example, okay, I have 10 minutes, but we did redefine, for example, our nightlife. Right now, obviously, we cannot all go to the clubs and start dancing, right? But we are working with a few very strong players and international stars as well to do something quite exciting, which will be announced in 10 minutes. So I can't say any more for now.
All right. Okay, we'll wait for the 10 minutes to happen. That. Thank you so much. In fact, let's be the first one to hear that. Okay, now moving on, Nandini, I'm coming to you. You have been looking into this market for such a long time. What do you think are really has been 2020 like, and what the changes going to be, and what are you going to look in the future from a Nepal perspective?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I absolutely agree with all the other speakers. We all have to, walk the same path in trying to revive. And, we really think that 2020 is sort of, as far as, major tourism is concerned, maybe a bit of a washout for Nepal. And it might we might just go into probably, mid of 21 before we can start seeing any sort of change. And that also depends entirely on how the whole COVID situation, kind of goes up or goes down. So, having said that, in addition to our regular strategies, what we have done, we are now focusing first on the domestic market. Okay, because that surprisingly has grown phenomenally over the years, and there have been a huge number of Nepalese going to outbound markets. So we are sort of trying to promote that in the next few months, and then we are going to look at the regional markets, which is what we call the one-stop markets. And you come so much in the picture because you are our right hand, left hand, both are seeing eyes for India. So we'll be working with you. Of course, we're looking at China and very, very seriously at the Middle East. This is a market we really have been working at because we are exceptionally well connected with the Middle East. And like where we have 7 or 8 of the major carriers that have, some of them have double and triple daily flights also. So there is a huge potential market waiting there for us. And again, just to just segment that a little more, when we look at the Middle East, we have literally divided them into 3 target groups that we would be looking at. One would be the expat market per se. Now I'm looking in terms of numbers, numbers that we expect, and I'll tell you why I put it the other way around, starting, with the locals itself. Is the expat market, again, the expat market we have sort of divided into 2. One would be the long haul expat markets, the people who have come from other countries, staying there, and because we have huge numbers of them coming here for weekends, 3-night holidays to play golf or to do trekking, or just for soft adventure activities. So that would be a huge market for us. The other would be the Indian expats. That's really interesting because, again, we segment that into 2, because it could be maybe Indians coming in, or other people, or people from Philippines, Singapore, living there, coming in just for a quick getaway. Also, a huge sector we have is the Indians working there, sending their parents to Nepal from India, literally sort of, because we share a common spirituality, like, we have one of the most important Shiva temples and the Vaishnavite temples. So we're targeting these also. And then again, we have international schools, and then we come to the actual, the Middle East, the locals, the citizens there. Now, the average, Sanjeet already took us to the numbers, crunch numbers for us. And of course, we all know that they really holidays normally. Okay, so there, and they need sort of 7-star facilities available, which Nepal, in a way, we do have a lot of boutique properties, a lot of 5-star chains and all that. But then probably we still need to sort of to match up to get them in big numbers. So there we are looking at a niche market, people who are specifically interested in nature, in culture, in history, and soft adventure activities. And surprisingly, though the numbers are not huge from the Middle East yet, but Nepal is quite a well-known destination, because a lot of people from the Middle East have come and sort of created records in mountaineering and basically adventure activities. So Nepal is really not a very unknown destination to them. So we are looking at all these various strategies, working very, very closely with the airlines, with the embassy there, and of course, we invite a lot of influencers, media, and trade from there, and we participate in fairs, sales missions. So it's an ongoing process.
Okay, fair enough. Point taken, Nandini. Now, rather than going in circles, I'm going to break that whole thing. I'm going to come back to you, Beverly, in Singapore just now. So, Daks, just hold on for another minute. Beverly, what I really need to ask you is something when everybody's talking about the so-called new norms or the new normal and stuff like that, the social distancing that's changing life for a lot of people. So what's Singapore doing as far as the social distancing concerned, and what are the best practices that you're recommending to the industry and the consumers? Can you throw some light on that?
Well, I think it's not just Singapore that's doing this social distancing thing, and it definitely has impacted the way people do business, the way we interact with people as consumers as well. It's definitely going to impact the way people travel. It kind of ties back into also your whole safety, cleanliness, hygiene factors on top of this social distancing, right? Largely, I see that they probably are going to start traveling in smaller groups. They're probably going to avoid the peak travel period. So I foresee some changes there. They are also going to be avoiding crowds, for example. So things like, I want to travel, but I'm going to go somewhere less crowded. I'm going to go explore, the greenery part. I'm going to do, so that I think that kind of thing would change, kind of in line with this social distancing effect, I would say. For the tourism industry, it's going to take some time for them to resume. The industry itself, the business itself is so diverse, and there's different operating contexts for all of them, right? I think during this time, the industry, we are working with them as well to reinvent themselves, to re-innovate how they do things, the usual, what we call standard operating procedures, they're going to change. Not a bad thing, like I say. It's just change, being more efficient, taking into consideration all these safety measures, right? I think not just that, as people, as consumers, as individuals, we also have our part to play. So it goes both ways. And these safety management measures will definitely be a new norm for us. It really depends on which industry or which business you're in. All of these will come into play as we start to draw out some of these perimeters to just kind of help them.
Okay, but now actually, what you mentioned, and I'm very tempted to ask you this question now than later. If I'm not wrong, Singapore is the hub for Southeast Asian cruises. That's what basically has been. So what are you planning to do for that? When are you going to start the cruising, and how are you trying to promote them?
I think cruise business. So I actually have a whole team taking care of cruise in Singapore. They have been working very, very hard with the cruise operators because they are obviously hit at the beginning, right? With unfortunately not very fun or good news at that point in time. But I think same for all industries. It's not just the cruising industry, but same for like our amusement parks or our clubs, our restaurants, and so on and so forth. These with high footfall. We have been working very closely with them to try and make sure that they are up to standard. So, for example, we actually launched the SG Clean campaign, Singapore Clean campaign. This is actually accreditation where we actually go and set up this minimum, audit them, and have them accredited in that sense for them to just kind of help them as well as instill confidence for the consumer. So it works both ways. And it's not just for the cruise industry, we're doing it for everyone.
So there's no date when you think the cruises will start again. So right.
I know they're trying to sell already, and I have heard that there are bookings, forward bookings. So I think that it's good for them.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Now coming to Daks. Daks, again, going to talk about social distancing, but you have some of the best beaches in the world. If I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere out of the top 10, 3 or 4 of them are in the Philippines. That's what basically it is. So I'm sure you don't need social distancing on a beach kind of situation if you're in the water. But just to understand, what are the things which you're trying to look at as Philippines in terms of social distancing and some of the best practices, what you have in mind? Dax.
Well, first of all, if that is actually something that the clients will be looking for, then we definitely have to oblige. In the case of the Philippines, I do have stakeholders who are very much prepared to provide the service for these kinds of clients. The second point that I would like to raise is that, of course, if this becomes a policy that is put forward by global regulators, then we all just have to follow. In that same note, being an archipelago, Philippines certainly have a lot of advantages under this scenario. Boracay Island, for example, one of the world's favorite holiday destinations, which have reduced and put a cap on its capacity even before COVID-19 started, was and remains to be COVID-free. The group of islands of Palawan, Philippines, is a green zone, as well as many other destinations in the Philippines. Everyone in the Philippines keeps very busy with capacity building implementation, all towards the new normal. So things are getting in place, I believe, not only in the Philippines, but certainly in other parts of the ASEAN and Asia. And the entire industry, I believe, is prepared or is in the position of preparing itself to adopt to this scenario. There are going to be a lot of changes brought about by social distancing, but the industry is is putting up with these demands, and this will all be the products will all be readily available as soon as doors start to open.
So basically, well, I understand the beaches are your best advantage, but when you're going to Manila, your city, and other things, you will have these rules and regulations for social distancing adhered to in great detail. Now, moving on to actually, Nandini, you did hint on so-called your protocols, which you have worked on for the industry, and especially when it comes to climbing the mountains or going into the snow and all that, so you don't need social distancing there because there is nothing over there you can do. But my point of view is, what are your plans? Are you working on something special as far as Nepal is concerned for hotels and other things for social distancing?
Yeah, okay, fine. What we have done is, in fact, I remember when we had the meeting a couple of weeks back, we started work on that then. And right now we've come out with a 75-page document because what we have done is we have tried to cover each and every segment of the travel industry, starting from the airport and right till transportation, hotels, restaurants, tourism management offices, irrespective of whether it's a travel company or a rafting company or a company, norms for those, and of course in tour and adventure activities. So, and we just created a shell, and then we passed it down to our travel trade associations, and again to the tourism think tank. We have industry professionals who are really very much into, they're totally up to speed. So we really, because at the end of the day, it's them who has to implement these. We just have to give it to them, but they have to be comfortable with, and it has to be workable and practical. So we took time to gather all the information back. So literally we have tried to cover each and every segment that a client would sort of touch, would be involved with. So and it has turned out to be quite a detailed document, and of course we have taken reference from all the norms that have been given out by the EU, by WHO, the ECDC, different countries. We have done a lot of reference, and yes, that is literally going to be the Bible for tourism in the future. And the way we have segregated it is we made it in three phases. So the first phase is obviously, like now, it was total lockdown. So literally, this people try and imbibe this. In the second phase, which would be a partial or a staggered lockdown opening, that's when they start implementing these protocols. So we have even specified stuff like how many staff they should have, or even in vehicles, what would be, let's say, in a car or a 10-seater or a 15-seater, how many people should be accommodated, maximal, whether it's restaurants. And I mean, like, we've tried to cover the entire tourism ecosphere. Hopefully, we were successful. And so that is there. And then we have the third phase, where when these will be totally mandatorily have to be implemented when everything looks back to normal. But then I can foresee that for a very, very long time we will have to use this protocol because it will always be better to be safe than sorry. Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you. I'm going to ask all three of you a very quick question, and this is a small answer. Starting with you, Daks, what I'm going to say is, when do you expect the first wave of foreign tourists from the Middle East coming to the Philippines? Would it be this year or next year? Let's just give us some.
Well, our market-based stakeholders have already reported that over 70% of their clients are looking into travel arrangements. That is a very positive sign. So, as soon as regulations are in place and supply chains start to open, I am sure there is going to be an outflow or a demand going beyond Middle East, domestic, or regional, and they will start to reach out to the world. So, yes, it is a wait-and-see attitude, but the people, both the residents and the locals, are already looking into traveling. And all we have to do is to try to fulfill that pent-up urge to travel as soon as possible.
Okay, You're not giving me direct answer, but for you. Nandini, when do you expect the first wave of foreign tourists to come from the Middle East?
Now we are hoping that they come at least latest by mid 2021, because I really, as much as we would like them to come tomorrow, the confidence has to really be in the traveler to take up the offers that are on the pallet. That's the biggest challenge. So till that basic, the health, psychological, and the physical comfort, confidence is not there, I think we have to be a little realistic for that.
All right. Beverly, coming to you. I know confidence building. I understand that very well. But what do you anticipate your first wave of foreign tourists from the Middle East coming in?
I think it really depends on the bilateral arrangements between the countries as well. So it's not just, I would hope they come soon. It also depends on the arrangements between the two countries, right? When we open our borders, likewise, Middle East has to open as well. It kind of goes both ways. So right now, I really can't give you an exact date. I don't think none of us have that date in mind, unfortunately. But I will say that I think every country is working actually together to try and get everyone else ready. And when they start opening up the borders, I think that's when you would see movements from anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you were to look into your crystal ball and say, okay, because these dimensions will change. Countries will open up in the next month or so. That.
The thing is, for Singapore, because our country is really quite small, and it is a whole of government effort, so we are actually taking this opening up, we're not even talking about the borders, but we're opening up the country in a very careful and celebrated manner. So even for our opening, we're in phases right now. We are approaching phase 1, which is in June 2nd. Phase 2, we don't even have a date yet.
Right, I understand.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm not trying to put you on the spot on set. But okay, next question to you would be, what, according to you, does make the Middle East such a lucrative market?
I think Middle East has always been it's actually one of the very strong markets for outbound, number one. Number two, the country like Saudi, they're opening up, they want to open up. That kind of adds on to this whole Middle East being quite a lucrative market. The spend is also high, we all know that. Business travelers are also starting to come up from the Middle East. So with all of that, we also know that there is pent-up demand for individual travelers, for female travelers from the Middle East. And these are markets that have been untapped for a while. And I do see very, very big potential in all of this, making them quite an attractive market for us.
All right. Thanks. Going on to Daks. Daks, I'm not asking you the same question. I'm changing that a bit. Do you think after this COVID thing, would the prices will remain the same to visit Philippines for a holiday, or would that change in terms of air pricing and hotels? What's going to happen on that? I'm going to come to all of you on that because that's a very interesting one. So, but to start off with you, what do you think is going to be?
It is going to go both ways. There are going to be a lot of changes, and we are speculating on a lot of changes in terms of the structure of what clients will be looking for. As I have already earlier mentioned, there may be clients who might go very strict on the social distancing theme, which partners or my stakeholders here from the Philippines are very much prepared to service. Now, there might also be a segment of the market who might still be looking into bargains. So, perfect or rather certain stakeholders are also prepared to service that market. But the key here, which is very difficult for myself to answer, is what is going to be the direction of the airlines. Because once the cost of the airline goes up, then the entire cost of travel will definitely go up as well. So I would
Sorry, Dax, can you be a little louder? We can't hear you very well. If you can be a little louder, please.
Yeah, as I said, the ball is at the side of the airlines. Should the cost of flight increase, this will drastically have an effect on the cost of a packaged holiday. In terms of accommodation and other services, that is ready to flex depending on, as I've mentioned earlier, what the client is looking for. And definitely all segments of demand will be serviced.
Okay, so you're saying both ways. Okay, I'll add that for every segment of the market. Nandini, coming to you, what do you think is going to be the pricing, and what do you think is going to be in the long run? Because you have, I'm talking about the hills, I'm talking about the mountains, and I'm talking about the city. How does it work for you? Do you think there's going to be a price change?
I think there definitely will be a price change, though the trade would like to offer very competitive prices to attract customers. But the reality, I think, is going to be that since the social distancing rules and the related expenses that that are involved will probably eventually, I think realistically, we passed on to the customer. For example, like a vehicle. If you say it's a tour that you're going in, and if it's a 20-seater, previously they could have fitted in 20 people in there. But right now, we have recommended that you cannot fit in more than 8 to 10 people, including the driver. Okay, and they have to invest in PPEs, a lot of sanitizers. You understand, at every level of the arrangement, there are going to be additional expenses for the operator. So. It could really sort of go until the market stabilizes. Probably once things start looking up, maybe then the prices might sort of become more competitive. Let me put it that way. But right now, and again, we have to remember that the trade is literally going to be quite literally broke by the time we sort of hit the pocket bag. So I think that would be a little more realistic.
Okay.
That's what
Fair enough. Coming to you, Beverly, Singapore, all the hotels and things of that kind. So what's going to be with them? Are they really going to go north up, or they're going to come down? So what is it going to be like?
I think flight prices will ultimately be subjected to supply and demand. This is the basic business economy kind of incidents. Will it definitely go up? Will it definitely go down? I think it does balance out. We are working very closely with our airlines for sure, just to make sure that it doesn't go exorbitant as well. It doesn't make sense for it to be too expensive. People can't afford it, They also need to survive. So I don't think it's such a straightforward, like it's going to jump 3, 5 times, 10 times. I don't think so. But we definitely are working with them as a government. We are working with them to make sure that they survive while also meeting the demands where there is.
Okay. I actually, now we're coming to a close, but before that, I want to ask my last 2 questions to all of you. And Dax, I would like to start with you. I really need to ask you and understand, at this stage, working with the private sector becomes very important. And in fact, that's something. So are you offering any working with them? Are you offering them some incentives to work at this market? Because they're individual private businesses. So what's your plan, and what are you trying to do with that as far as Philippines is concerned?
Yes. As a matter of fact, referring to my earlier answer in your question, part of the key strategy is partnership. So we are constantly in touch with our market-based stakeholders, and currently, together with our Philippine stakeholders, we are providing them with situation updates on positive developments as regards to Philippine destinations. This initiative actually even started when our local stakeholders assisted our partners in the Middle East in the repatriation of their clients at the onset of the pandemic. So in terms of the partnership, that has strengthened not only in terms of possible joint promotions, but in providing the service. The concerns of our partners in the Middle East are automatically becomes the concerns of our local Philippine stakeholders, and so is then the government. And then from there, as I said, we just have to be updated on what the developments are from the source market and work together with them, in whichever direction the situation brings us. But definitely, we are confident, as have been signaled by our market-based stakeholders, that moving forward is going to be positive. Yeah. It all starts with the interest of the market to travel, and there is already strong interest, pent-up interest to go. It is only up to regulators and the supply chain to start working on fulfilling its role in giving the supply. So soon enough. And well, to recap what I've just said, yes, we are very strong on partnerships and we are constantly engaging with them as much as they are engaging with us on how to move on from here.
Okay, fair enough. Nandini, how are you working with the private sector, and are you bringing them or to the Middle East? What are your plans for that?
Right. Okay. We have to divide into two again here. So we have our travel trade here that we facilitate to market everywhere, and now we are focusing a lot in the Middle East. And other step we had taken is also to collaborate with the trade and the airlines that connect Nepal very strongly. So, in fact, just before this, late last year, I was in Dubai and I met up with all of course, we have Nepal Airlines, we have Himalayan Airlines from the, but apart from that, we have many Middle East carriers that are here. So I went and personally met them and we discussed on how we could really actively promote Nepal in the Middle East. And we had really made great strides in that, but unfortunately, again, because of this, it's kind of slowed down. We are in touch with them, but we would be really ramping up our contacts and our activities a lot more because we have been looking at Middle East, in fact, apart from COVID, because as a very, very potential new untapped market for us. So we're very hopeful about it.
Okay, fair enough. Beverly, are you doing some incentives for your personal travel trade from Singapore for this particular market? Are you working with them in a different way?
Actually, partnerships have always been an integral part of our job. So we haven't eased on that. In fact, we ramped up our outreach to both the Singapore partners as well as those partners in the Middle East. We've increased our fundings to them. We've actually increased, opened up and extended our partnership model with them. So that in itself, I think we're helping both sides usually. We're not going to stop. We're going to ramp it up as usual. And we're actually exploring very innovative and fun ways to engage not just the consumers, but also their partners. Which is something that I think they appreciate a lot, especially for like the DMCs and stuff, right? So they do have their own suppliers, they have their own partners. So we're actually working even on that front with them. So
okay, fair enough. Point well taken. Well, this actually is bringing up to our closing of the session, but I'm going to now ask you to give your closing remarks. And when you give your closing remarks, I want you to add, please, two things with it. One is, I just want to understand two things. One is, what are your plans to work with the travel trade in the Middle East? Are you concentrating on that? Are you concentrating on the consumer? And second thing, what segments of the market are you looking at? So that's going to be my two. So when you do your closing remarks, add this. And one more, Beverly, to you, when I come to you, I want to mention about that. You said you're going to do a press release or you're making an announcement now. So if you can share that with us, that'd be wonderful. So I want to start with the first next to the Middle East, the country is Nepal. So Nandini, why don't you go first on your reactions and your closing remarks?
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. It was wonderful being here today and this exchange of ideas, information. That was good learning also. And I already covered a little bit, how we're planning to work with the trade, in the Middle East. And of course, the airlines plays a very, very big role. Fortunately, we have a very active embassy also there. So we're really spreading our tentacles out there, much stronger than before. And the other thing I wanted to also emphasize is we're also looking at subtle messaging of of Nepal, like you said, Dream Now, Wake Up in Philippines. So we have this Dream Now, Travel Later kind of campaign going on, and we're using a lot of social media for this. So that just to keep Nepal on top of the mind recall, when people really start looking at a destination. The very important thing we are doing is far as sort of branding or rebranding Nepal is we are really trying to move it as a destination beyond just mountains, because I always say that Nepal sometimes is the victim of a very strong brand, which is Mount Everest. So you think Nepal with you think Mount Everest, and then you think, oh, it's only for the young, the adventurous, and the foolhardy. But then we have so much more in terms of culture, in terms of nature, in terms of heritage, and a whole lot of niche activities that really we are not known yet. So that's what we are focusing on. In the Middle East, like studies have shown, obviously the adventure sector is really small. They do go in for adventure, but then we have a lot of nature, a lot of culture, a lot of new activities. But is we are going to focus on three, reposition Nepal as three W's. That would be a wow destination, a wild destination, untapped, virgin. There is still so much nature, and wellness. Because this is a place where you could come and rejuvenate yourself in body, mind, and soul. So that's going to be our focus, and that's how we're going to be marketing Nepal.
Thank you, Nandini. That's very great. I want to come on to Beverly. Beverly, let's hear your news, and of course, your winding up remarks. Let's hear that.
I think lastly, I want to put it out there that we are definitely wanting to strengthen even more and build even more partnerships with our trade, both locally, both in Singapore as well. And we are actually we want to look at very innovative, differentiated way of reaching out to our customers. So that kind of leads into our announcement for today. We actually teamed up with one of our iconic nightclubs in Singapore, plus Vice, and we are actually doing a virtual party across 3 continents with international stars and local DJs and local performers and all. Yes, it's really, really exciting. I'm like sitting in my chair wanting to jump out of it. And it's not just like a concert that's been going on. There's actually like virtual technology going on, augmented reality, the whole bunch. It's a huge mix, really fun thing. And this is what I mean by we work with our partners, we innovate, we recreate, we redefine. And this is something that I want to push out together with all my partners. Let's think of fun ways to do things. This is a great time for us to be creative and fun. People also. So.
No. Point taken. We're not going to hold you too long. We'll let you go in a few more minutes for your jumping and do what you feel like. Daks, before I come to you, I had to go to the ladies first, so you understand that and appreciate that fact. So it's not the last but the least. But over to you. What are you thinking about working with the travel trade in the Middle East, and what segments could you be looking at?
Yeah. Well. Again, a big part of the strategy would be focused marketing. We will be working with the trade, we will be working with the consumer, and we will be working with the consumer through trade. Yeah. So these are the partnerships and the combinations that we will be looking at. Also, let me refer back to the earlier statements that together with our partners, we will try to constantly update the 4 Ws and approach communications together in all possible channels through initiatives directed towards focused marketing. So these are the combinations that we will look at. There will be a lot of, the trend is going to be more on the personalized service of the client. Each client will have different demands, and we are prepared, both my stakeholders from the Philippines and the stakeholders from the market, to basically provide the kind of service that each and every kind of client requires. So that takes a lot of effort, but I have generated commitments from the partners to be able to do this and service this. It will be more personalized, definitely. And my, say, cooperations, or my part of the bargain of cooperations will always be there to support them. So then again, in closing, I would like to assure everyone that the Philippines is preparing for your arrival. And in the meantime, dream, and one day very soon you will wake up in the Philippines. So thank you.
Wonderful. I love to sleep tonight and feel better tomorrow on one of your beaches. But anyway, thank you. I think that was just wonderful. I want to thank all three of you for your insights as experts. I think you've shared a lot with the travel industry in the Middle East. They will love to hear and know more about how you prepare to deal and work with them. And after my thank you, I just want to say one thing to all of you. Happy selling, and I hope you get lots and lots of tourists from the Middle East to your various countries. All the best, and God bless. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.